G'day, welcome back to the channel and welcome to another crazy dose of EV and net zero insanity with MGUY EV news for Wednesday the 13th of November 2024. Be sure to follow me on the usual socials for more content, links in the description, and please make sure you're subscribed and have enabled all notifications so you don't miss out on any future videos. And if you'd like to support this channel, why not buy me a coffee? Click the link in the description or scan the QR code on screen. So this really is a tragic story. I reported on this when it happened, which was tail end of October. Basically, 5 people, I think, traveling in a Tesla, which crashed. 4 of them perished. One of them was able to escape, but the real terrible tragedy here is that they weren't able to get out because the electric door handles were not operating. So the Daily Mail has the story, terrified friends burned to death, trapped inside crashed Tesla after its electronic doors failed. 4 friends died in a burning Tesla after a crash broke the car's electronic door handles, it is claimed. A woman in her 20s was the only survivor of the fiery October the 24th crash after Rick Harper, a heroic Canada Post employee, smashed the window of the blazing Model Y with a metal pole. 4 of her friends, identified as 25-year-old Neilraj Gohil, his sister Kitaba Gohil, 29, Jay Sisodia and Digvijay Patel, all died in the tragedy. Harper has since told the Toronto Star that the surviving woman couldn't open the doors from the inside of the wreck. Teslas have a button which the car's driver and passenger push to open a door instead of a handle, but if the power fails after a crash, the doors can become stuck and won't open. I would assume the young lady would have tried to open the door from the inside because she was pretty desperate to get out, Harper said. I don't know if that was the battery or what, but she couldn't get out. Harper said the woman scrambled out of the car headfirst after he smashed the window. The smoke was so thick he didn't realise there were others trapped inside. He has no way of knowing whether they, too, were frantically trying to get out of the Tesla. So this is a major problem for these kind of electronic door locks. I'm not just saying it's Tesla alone, other cars have them as well. There is a mechanical release inside the car, but it's hidden behind a panel or something, and unless you know exactly where it is, you're going to be struggling to find it, especially in the panic of an accident or an emergency like this. And also, clearly, the door handles outside didn't kind of pop open to allow the doors to be opened. So if the people inside, for example, were unconscious, then how is that supposed to work? There has to be some kind of mechanical door handle which first responders, firefighters, etc. can access in the event of an emergency. And as a result of that not being the case, we have 4 people who've lost their lives. I can't believe there aren't regulations about this, and if there aren't, there absolutely should be. It's absolutely tragic. And from tragedy of that to the hilarity of this story, but also equally fraught with danger, electric car owner sparks outrage charging car with unusual method. An electric car owner in the Newcastle region, that's Newcastle in Australia, New South Wales, has sparked outrage after attempting to charge their vehicle in an unconventional way. A photo sent to 2GB's Ray Hadley shows a charger running through a storm pipe and into the car's charging port on the street. The unusual setup caused quite a stir, with Hadley commenting that it was a bizarre decision. I have to say, it's kind of ingenious, isn't it, really? I mean, that's the kind of way that they do on-street parking in some countries, where they run a trench across the pavement and you can poke your cable into that trench, and this is just an extension of that, so to speak. But yeah, I mean, look, if the cable is intact, there's no damage to the insulation, and it's not, gushing down with rain, then kind of have to admire the ingenuity of this guy. It's not a sensible solution for general use. If there's any problem with the insulation and there's water flowing through that pipe, then things could be very different. But it's hilarious. It just goes to show how people are desperate to charge their EVs on the street. Check my video out. I think a little while ago I did one about a guy that used a fishing rod to string the cable up over the pathway. That takes the cake so far. If you've got any other examples of crazy on-street parking solutions, do send them to the usual email address. I'd love to see them. So this is another interesting one. We've got a drag strip in Queensland called Willow Bank, which has banned EVs, road registered EVs. I'm not sure if that means that non-road registered EVs are okay, but obviously they're banning them because they don't have the means to deal with incidents or fires if they occur, which kind of makes sense. I don't know why you'd take I guess you would take your EV, because that's one of the tricks it can do, is accelerate fast in a straight line. It's the only trick it can do, really. So maybe you do want to check it out. Willow Bank Raceway bans fully electric vehicles over safety concerns. Willow Bank Raceway in Queensland, Australia has announced a significant shift in its policies concerning electric vehicles, EVs, on the track. Effective immediately, the renowned Australian drag racing venue will no longer permit road-registered fully electric vehicles to race or test on its grounds. The decision comes after an in-depth evaluation of safety protocols, referencing insights from Motorsport Australia, the National Electric Drag Racing Association, and emergency response agencies. So here is the statement from Willow Bank Raceway, and it basically just highlights all the problems we know about with EVs. After careful consideration and investigation, Willow Bank Raceway has decided that we can no longer allow road-registered fully electric vehicles to race or test at Willow Bank Raceway. We have been reviewing the regulations from Motorsport Australia, NEDRA, as well as the emergency response procedures for specific vehicles, and after information provided from these departments, we have determined that the risks associated with racing and testing electric vehicles are too high. These risks include the battery may release toxic and flammable gas after a collision. First responders may not be able to confirm that the car is off. Doors may not unlock from the outside after a collision. Yes, exactly. See first story. If the driver is unconscious after an incident, including a medical incident, there is a chance that the chassis is live and removing the driver would put the responders at risk. The car may not roll without the power disconnected, and towing the car with our current equipment would be impossible. Electric vehicles require specific fire suppression systems such as water baths. So yeah, that basically summarizes all the issues with electric vehicle batteries and their risks of fire. I'm curious as to why the road registered is highlighted in red, as if non-road registered fully electric vehicles are still allowed on the Willow Bank Raceway. That would be an interesting decision because the technology is exactly the same. Maybe they're talking about drag cars which don't have a cabin in the traditional sense. They're open cockpit kind of vehicles. Maybe that's what they mean. But I think we'll see this at a lot of places that host racing events, because you do need so much extra tech to deal with possible fires, and it's a risk to the occupants if you can't get the doors open to rescue them. So I think it's a wise decision. And again, another story from the UK here about how the market is still heading down rapidly. There's another article that I wasn't going to report on today, but it's from The Driven, which is an EV site, which says how, EV global sales have gone up, 30% or something, and it's all driven by China. China is the only country where EVs are going up in sales. Everywhere else it's static or going down. Car makers slash new EV prices by up to a third in desperate bid to meet binding end-of-year sales targets. ZEV mandate is forcing some manufacturers to discount EVs by as much as 36%. Car makers are offering record discounts on new electric vehicles in a desperate bid to invigorate demand as binding end-of-year sales targets loom, data suggests. The zero-emission vehicle ZEV mandate, introduced by government this year to force manufacturers to increase their share of EV sales from now until 2030, threatens fines of £15,000 per electric car below the required quota, and some car companies falling short of this year's threshold are slashing prices by amounts similar to the financial penalties to shift more stock. according to data supplied by car sales platform AutoTrader. Additional market analysis by valuations experts Cap HPI has also found the price of new petrol and diesel models has accelerated at a faster rate than EVs in the last 12 months, as car makers look to launch more affordable battery vehicles. The biggest discount of all in percentage term is on the DS3 Crossback E-Tense. It usually retails at an average price of £37,800, but was selling last month with 36% off. Means the average price paid in October was closer to £23,000, which is a saving of £14,500. I don't know about you, but it wouldn't matter how much they discounted an EV, I still wouldn't buy one. It's just it's a principle thing. I don't want an EV. So just reducing the price is not going to make me want one. I mean, I guess if they gave me one, I'd take it, but that's about the only reason. Maybe I'd take it and then sell it again. At least I wouldn't make a loss. This is a fantastic view into the mind of your average Tesla driver. Sell the car. Tesla bumper sticker causes a stir online. This Tesla bumper sticker has caused a stir online after users discovered the undertones of this cheeky dig at Elon Musk. And the sign says, "Bought it before we knew how awful he is." And it's next to a "Yes to the voice" sticker, which is kind of out of date now, considering it was defeated soundly over a year ago. He may be one of the most well-known car brand CEOs of the 21st century, but Elon Musk certainly has people talking about him at both ends of the love-hate spectrum. One Tesla Model Y owner took it to the next level with this cheeky bumper sticker. The photo on the Cars Australia subreddit shows a white Model Y with the bumper sticker, "Bought it before we knew how awful he is." The undertones are that the owner purchased the Tesla before Elon Musk became an outspoken political figure. The comment section was littered with different opinions, some even telling the owner to be quiet or sell their car. I don't look at a Tesla and think, "Oh, that person has X politics," or "they must really love Elon," said one user. They bought a car and are being more Americanized because of the sticker. Most Aussies wouldn't have a clue who someone else voted for because we don't make it our personalities. Either sell the car and live by your principles or shut up and drive it, scathed another. This is ridiculous. It's not as if anyone who buys a Ranger is necessarily a supporter of Jim Farley, nor is anyone who buys a Camry a fan of Akio Toyoda. Is everyone buying some gizmo from Amazon endorsing Jeff Bezos, wrote another. Yeah, well, it's just a window into the minds of these, smug liberal Tesla owners. And it's hilarious. And in case you haven't noticed, it's the annual Climate Gab Fest where people jet in their private jets and spend a week in air-conditioned comfort, eating luxurious meals and drinking expensive wine and smoking cigars, no doubt, while they lecture the rest of us that we need to cut down our emissions. And as usual, we've got the usual, it's a red warning. It's the last chance to take action that we've all heard for the last 30 years. Surprisingly, we're still here. And in the most hilarious irony, it's coming from Azerbaijan, which is one of the biggest fossil fuel producers in the world. And the president doesn't hold back. Oil and gas are gift from God, Azerbaijan president tells COP29 climate summit. Can you imagine? They'd all be spitting out their organic muesli and clutching their pearls at somebody saying something so heretical. Azerbaijani President Ilham Aliyev used a keynote speech at the COP29 climate summit to lash out at Western critics of his country's oil and gas industry, saying it had been the victim of a well-orchestrated campaign of slander and blackmail. The comments came on the second day of a summit at which nearly 200 nations are meeting to discuss how they can cut fossil fuel emissions, and moments before United Nations Secretary-General Antonio Guterres, communist moron, said doubling down on fossil fuels was an absurd strategy. The airing of these opposing views on the main stage underscore the challenge at the heart of the climate negotiations. Many Western states remain dependent on fossil fuels, while at the same time seeking to pressure others who produce them into shifting to greener energy sources. Yes, it's hypocrisy. At the same time, a Dutch appeal court issued a landmark climate ruling in favour of oil and gas company Shell, dismissing an order for it to sharply reduce emissions. Brilliant. Well, if you look at the emissions, the planetary emissions over the last 30 years, all of these COP meetings, all of the Paris Agreement, all the treaties, they have made not a jot of difference to CO2 emissions, because it's all the Western countries doing it, like the UK, that, you know, emits the square root of bugger all CO2, whereas China is building, you know, a new fossil-fueled coal-fired power station every 2 weeks. It's just insane. And despite all of its sensors and cameras and goodness knows what else, you know, intelligent driving ability, a Tesla has crashed into and driven up over another car. Tesla mounts car in Sydney Street. Mating season has started early. After a Tesla mounted another car in Sydney, police lamented the recovery operation due to a little-known danger of electric vehicles. Parking is at a premium in Sydney, but this EV owner has taken it too far. A massive recovery operation took place on Tuesday morning after a Tesla mounted another car in Sydney's northwest. Motorists were told to avoid Chapel Lane in Crestwood while a tow truck worked to safely remove the car. Pictures uploaded to social media by the Hills Police Area Command show a white Tesla mounted on a blue Holden and rammed into the back end of a black Mercedes. Recovery operations for EVs generally take longer due to battery fire risks. Lithium-ion batteries are found in electric cars, e-scooters and e-bikes. Unfortunately, recovery operations for EVs take a long time due to risk of fire to the batteries, the social media post read. Police confirmed no one was injured in the incident, but 3 cars were probably written off. But many took to the comments section to embarrass the driver. Tesla drivers, they think they can park anywhere, one said. Another wrote, "Don't those cars have auto parking, not to mention a plethora of crash avoidance sensors?" Yes, they do. And none of them worked. And finally, following on from my video recently about how wind factories and solar factories are blighting Australia's landscape and taking up thousands of acres of prime agricultural land, I was contacted by someone in Tasmania who's asked me just to ask all Tasmanians, if you know anybody in Tasmania, just send them this link. It's a petition to the Parliament of Tasmania to put a halt to all of this renewable energy rollout in Tasmania, to have a proper investigation into the effects on the environment and the biodiversity. I'll put a link in the description. I'll put a QR code on the screen. If you're in Tasmania, it's only open to Tasmanian residents, unfortunately. But if you're in that state, I highly recommend that you sign that petition and stop this renewable energy madness, at least in your state. You might be able to get it stopped. All right, that's just about it for this one. Thanks very much for watching. Really hope you enjoyed it. See you in the next one. Bye for now.